Hi everyone, welcome to a second installment of Triple J's Thoughts. This is where I give my 2 cents on, films, whether recent or classic, an opera I've seen, a play, a musical, um, or I just wanted to give something where it either spoke to me or it really touched me in some way, or just anything in general. Today I'm going to give my thoughts on a Korean film called Parasite. It is directed by Buon Joon-Ho. Buon Joon-Ho, did a film called Okja. Actually, you can see it on Netflix. I just actually checked. And I saw it last year. It's actually quite good. It kind of gives a commentary on how we deal with food consumption and mass producing and everything like that, kind of taking on our ethical practices in that respect. Also, Snowpiercer, kind of like a weird dystopian film. I actually want to try and see that so I can give more of an in-depth review. And also The Host. In terms of all of the actors, they did a fantastic job. We'll get to that later. But I'm not even going to try and say all their names because my knowledge is limited when it comes to foreign stars or foreign actors and actresses. So it's more obviously situated with more North American. So, but they did a fantastic job. Just say that off the cuff. So this movie was recommended to me, and I also heard about it countless times, especially coming off of TIFF, which it was premiered to very, very high praise. So for a while, I'm like, I have to see this. And when I first heard about it, I actually thought it was a horror flick, to be honest, and some sort of Korean horror flick, hence Parasite. I was like, okay, I don't mind horror once in a while, but I was a little bit intrigued. But it's completely not a horror flick at all. Someone had once described it to me as a mix of, let's take the movie called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, starring Steve Martin and I was going to say Niles Crane, Michael Caine, and mix that with directed by Quentin Tarantino, and you get your movie. And actually, I was like, oh, let me see if that's accurate, and it's pretty accurate. It's actually quite good, and I'll talk about a few things in a second. So this movie actually deals with an idea of class system, the class system of lower class working for higher class, and how the idea of the parasite is that the lower class system kind of feed off of what they desire or want from the higher class system, what they see and all the kind of novelties they get and receive. Whereas on the opposite side, you have the rich kind of seeing, the things they feel they can't do, like cook, drive for themselves. All these things where it's like they take advantage and feed off of them. And it's kind of this duality system. And because like any kind of parasite in real, it turns uglier and uglier in terms of feeding off of too much, desiring too much. And as if you ever watch the film, you'll see that it'll get to a very ugly stage. One of the elements that I actually liked about the film is the constant change of drama, or genre of kinds of films. So, for instance, it kind of started out as a sort of like a family kind of gathering, simple, fighting with each other, dealing with everyday life, and then it moves into this kind of sort of the dirty rotten scoundrel aspect of it, kind of the trickery, and then it moves into almost like a comedy, slapstick almost, and then it moves into sort of almost dipping into horror, I guess you could say, and then it kind of tails off into sort of a thriller. It's very very it's very very quick and constant, and that's one thing that really spoke to me. Another thing that spoke to me too was the use of the score. I was quite taken back by how the score reflected really strongly what was going on, and it almost gave a life to itself. That's why I kind of peg it with Quentin Tarantino, who uses music and score very well. And there was a part where out of nowhere, just this classical music started to play, which kind of at first was abrupting, but then it really worked, and again reflected what was going on in the film. Now, I know for some people, going to a foreign film, including myself, can seem a little bit daunting because, seeing subtitles, it kind of takes you away from from what was going on the screen, the way their inflections, their connections with each other, that might get lost. But what I found with this film is, even though it had subtitles, at first it was, of course you have to kind of get used to that rhythm of, seeing what they're saying and then seeing the scene and whatnot. But I found, because the story had this sense of simplicity, you didn't need to see every single detail what they're saying. Their emotions, the way they emoted themselves was quite clear. And there were times where you didn't even have subtitles because there was more action going on. So the cinematography took over. And for me, that was really, really intriguing. Another thing that spoke to me about this movie is the cinematography. It's really funny that I've been watching more and more films, and people always talk about how cinematography can really make a film, obviously. But I never really put that as something to really look for. And these days I have been looking forward to them as something poignant for a film. And this one really, really spoke to me as well, because you had the infamous one-take shots that really kind of made you feel claustrophobic, especially with that aspect, that Parasite, and then you had these wider shots of, that kind of slum kind of town where these poor people lived, seeing how they were being treated. There's a part with a major flooding water scene that really captivated me, and you're wondering what's going to happen, and that really took me. And I talked about before this duality of the Parasite, of a lower class system and a upper class system. So anytime you had a situation where it was almost like Downton Abbey. I don't watch it, by the way, but my wife does a lot. So it's that duality of, the lower class system, they literally stay on the bottom, and then you have the upper class system stay on the top. And they showed that, in order to get to, say, the rich person's house, they have to walk a whole bunch of stairs, and just showing just simple things like that. And they had this beautiful wide shot, actually, of, I won't get into details, obviously I don't want to spoil the film, but there was this idea of escaping, and they have to retreat back down the stairs. And they show this kind of, for me, clearly showing that duality of the upper class system and the lower class system. Even though that the actors and actresses I don't know of, because again, being the foreign film, again, they could be, the Tom Cruises and Denzel Washingtons of our place, but unfortunately, I don't know in terms of how popular they are, how they're newcomers or whatnot. But they did a fantastic job of showing a really great family dynamic and playing off each other. And one of the, in terms of the, I guess you could say, the rich family, I really was laughing out loud actually quite a bit with the mother of the rich family, because she was very much this, she had almost like these hopes and dreams, but she had this airiness to her. There's a sense of trickery in this movie, and she just went along with the ride so easily and played it so well, that the idea it was convincing. It made you made you laugh at her kind of gullibility, shall we say. So that she stood out for me. But again, every single character really, really spoke. They had, again, this really, really nice dynamic and made the scenes really flow quite well. Some final thoughts on this, thoughts on the movie Parasite. Again, I reiterate that this movie really delves into the idea of, again, the class system, the lower and upper, feeding off of each other, and kind of showing this idea of envy and jealousy, and the idea of how far do we go when we have these desires for wanting something that people have, and vice versa, like when we feel we can't do something and we always need help, or we always need different things in life. So that sort of element really, really tug at me, you know, because I think like anybody in life, we always look towards what we desire, what we can't have, or what we don't have, and we always desire what they do, and to be thankful for what we do have. So it's, again, but it also, you know, in our modern times where it feels sometimes that there is a strict duality of rich and poor, we have to kind of reflect that, and movies like Parasite really did, and gave almost a, dare I say it, a horror look at that element. So this movie has inspired me to actually revisit, because I haven't watched it in 6 years, is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Again, Steve Martin and Michael Caine. A fabulous, fabulous comedy in terms of where they're tricking people for money. Also, I want to watch some of Buon Joon-Ho's other movies, like The Snowpiercer. Stars good old Chris Evans from the Marvel films. And also The Host, and see what they're like. Again, as I said before, Okja was fantastic. It really kept me captivated. And also this movie, I think that's what I feel Buon Joon-Ho's directorial style keeps you captivated. There's some movies that I watch and I'm just like, okay, what time is it? But I felt I was really at the, dare I say it, at the edge of my seat, wanting to know what's going to happen next. And then he gives you a chance to relax, and then it comes back again. So he kind of pushes and pulls, which I feel Tarantino does a lot of times, where you have these, you know, massive dialogues, and then there's this tension, and then it goes away. So I was really, really taken back by that, but highly, highly recommend you see Parasite. Again, put away the fear of, oh, it's a foreign film, I have to read subtitles. Because, I mean, that was something that I had a little apprehension with when I was going to go see it, but you don't really need to. It speaks for itself a lot of times. And it's not like there's some major dialogue or monologue that, you know, you have to read every single line to kind of get the idea or aspects of this movie. The cinematography, the actions of the stars, the music, the atmosphere really takes that to you and makes you, you know, really engaged and question things about life and everything else. So again, thank you so much for listening to my thoughts on the movie Parasite. Again, I will keep this going. This is a nice little outlay just to kind of show my interest, because I've loved film for my entire life, and I just always want to give my thoughts on it. So I'm not sure what my next one will be, my next film will be next. Sorry, but what I'm trying to do, I might even do a review of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And one of the viewers that watched my video gave a suggestion about 80s films. So I know my wife loves 80s films, especially the good old rom-coms and kind of classic ones. And I might do a classic, who knows. Again, feel free to give me suggestions. I have not watched every single movie on the planet, so there's definitely something that I have not watched. And I would love, love, love to review something new, something different that I've never seen before that might speak to you, and give my thoughts on those as well. So again, like and subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I will see you again soon.